So, starting as we always do with a question that's come in from our beautiful family all around the world, joining through this gift of technology. Then we will open it up to any questions that anyone here has. There's a microphone right there in the center, so feel free to come and share your name, share where you're from, and your question. Are spiritual techniques like yoga and meditation, or japa, or self-inquiry by themselves enough to heal from serious traumas like family violence or sexual abuse? And this is asked by Jada. So it's a bit of a touchy subject because I don't think they are. I believe that in the highest way, they absolutely could be. If your yoga, your meditation, your japa brought you into such a deep, powerful, totally full, enlightened state of absolute God realization, self-realization that didn't last just a few moments and then dissipated, but actually changed the very wiring of you, it could be enough. Theoretically, it could be enough, because theoretically, if we had the unchanging, undissipating experience, awareness, remembrance of the divinity of ourselves, the fact that we had been beaten as a kid or abused in some other ways as a kid, or had seen other family members being abused or beaten, it would lose its hold on us as we had that total and complete rewiring of identification. We would then be able to look back on what happened to us and to others very much like different movies that had played on the same screen. Well, the screen isn't impacted by the movies. I mean, you go into a movie theater. This is like Vedanta 101 example. You go into a movie theater and 1 minute a romance is playing, and the next minute a horror movie is playing, and the next minute some cops and robbers thriller is playing, and the next moment some comedy is playing. But the screen isn't impacted. Nothing happens to the screen. The video is being relayed onto it, but the screen is unchanged. And that's ultimately, at the absolute highest level of experience, what we are supposed to know about ourselves. So on a theoretical level, if my meditation, if my yoga, if my japa brought me into a state of such complete, perfect awakening that I suddenly knew that I was the unchanging screen, and at this moment there's a horror movie going, and at this moment there's a love story going, and at this moment there's a comedy going, then yeah, I would be free of that. I would remember it simply the way that you remember a movie you saw. But that doesn't, keep you up at night, doesn't steal your peace. The dilemma is that that's not the way it happens for most of us. Our yoga, our meditation, our japa brings us slowly, 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 step by step. Sometimes we have huge leaps and bounds we grow. And then we may have moments of more staticness, and then it seems like we grow. And then maybe we feel a little bit more static. Sometimes it feels like we're just plodding along step by step. But it's incremental in either case. Whether big leaps forward and then stable times, or whether an incremental movement. But as we are growing, we're in this experience of having, for most of us, having accessed deep, powerful truths about ourselves, about the universe. Maybe even accessed ecstatic states. States of not being this body, states of oneness with the divine. But then for most of us, we come down from it. And then we're going to go up again, which is great. We have another great moment. But we are still under the influence of our psyche. We are still under the influence of what in the East we call sanskaras. In the West, we speak about as neural patterns or networks. But it's this idea of impressions that are made on ourself, on our emotional self, our psychological self, our habituated self, ways that we think, ways we react, ways we act. And so if I've been through trauma, even if I've had these powerful moments of experiencing oneness with the divine, when I go back to my individual identity, I'm back in the psyche. I'm back in the story. It's why so many of the spiritual masters, but I'm thinking at the moment of Jack Kornfield, who's a very, very famous American Buddhist teacher, philosopher, guide, master. And he says, if you think you're enlightened, go spend 2 weeks with your family of origin. Because there's nothing like being in the same four walls with your family of origin for many of us to trigger that unenlightened self. And we've all had these moments of having had incredible experiences of God realization, and then being triggered or reacting or finding yourself, jealous or upset or judgmental. Oh, where'd that come from? You realize, it's another layer. It's another layer. It's another layer. And we keep going deeper. So from my experience, eventually, if you're prepared to invest enough years and even enough lifetimes, eventually your spiritual practice would be enough to heal that. But I think a more expedited route is when we link psychological work with our spiritual work. The spiritual work is all about you're not the body, you're not the story, you are soul. And if the body, if the story, if the psyche has been severely traumatized, especially in our early childhood, to the point where it's imprinted in a very subconscious and even unconscious level within us, some psychological work can be really, really helpful at looking at these patterns. But psychological work in and of itself, what I have found is it just keeps us stuck. We become masters of our own darkness. I mean, when I met Pujya Swamiji at 25, I could have written volumes about why I suffered. Here's why I have this problem. Here's why I have that problem. Here's why I have this problem. Here's the false belief here. Here's the addiction here. I danced circles around therapists. And oh, you're so smart. And I managed to, evade treatment for a while because I could convince these therapists that I had understood this thing really very well. The problem is you don't actually heal like that. So we end up masters of our darkness. We know it, but we can't free ourselves of it. And that's where spirituality comes in. Because spirituality is actually that turns on the lights. And the moment the light has been turned on, now you're a master of that which was. So it doesn't hold any weight anymore. If you know everything there is to know about the darkness, but now it's light, you become kind of irrelevant. Right? It's like so many jobs with AI. Like, oh, you can do that? Well, yeah, so can my computer, much faster and better and cheaper than you can. So you become kind of irrelevant. In the same way, that psychological aspect of us that's a master of our darkness, of our story, of our dis-ease, of our neuroses, becomes kind of irrelevant. Because spirituality turns on the light. And it doesn't mean that the neuroses disappear. It just means that they stop running the show. They stop impacting you. They stop having the power to steal your joy, to steal your peace. So, yeah, if you're looking to heal from serious trauma, I would most definitely do both. Because both of them have really unique and individual and important roles to play. Yeah, good question. Other questions that anyone here has? Yes. Yes, of course. Don't be shy.
So I have a burning question which I feel like, the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita perhaps doesn't have the answers for, so that's why I'm asking you. But what's the right relationship to sexuality on the spiritual path? Like, in the classical texts and things like that, there's brahmachari, or complete celibacy and whatnot. But then I find as a, human in the 21st century, I'm questioning, it's like, is like partnership allowed, and like, can you still have even like short-term relationships? Is a committed long-term relationship the best support for a spiritual life, or is it even possible to have a polyamorous, kink-friendly pod and still attain mukti?
Yeah, great. Okay. So spirituality and the right relationship to sexuality. So the good news is the Vedas do give us some information about that. But there's so many texts, and there's so much. So it's a very interesting situation. Because on the one hand, yes, we have a huge emphasis on abstinence on every level. Not only sex, and I'll come back to that in a moment, but a huge emphasis on what we call tapas, austerities, abstinence, fasting from whether it's food, whether it's water, whether it's sex, the whole 9 yards. And then we have teachings like the Kama Sutra, which are, by the way, very severely misunderstood. I cannot tell you the number of people in the West I have had come up to me over the years, particularly when I first took vows of sannyas, vows of monastic celibacy, who were like, Celibacy in the land of the Kama Sutra? Like, what do you mean? What are you doing? Isn't India like a land of sex, the Kama Sutra? And of course, to them, I had to explain the opposite, which is we basically have sutras for everything. A sutra simply is rooted in the awareness that every aspect of life should be a way to get closer to the divine, should be part of our spiritual practice, that there is nothing which is excluded from our spiritual life. And so there are right ways of cooking food, of eating food, of getting out of bed in the morning, of bathing, of doing an oil massage, of raising children, of going to sleep at night. And of course, therefore, there is a right way, there are teachings on how we can use our sexual, our sensual experiences in a way that they are also spiritual. That's what the Kama Sutra is about, is okay. Amidst all of the other sutras about all of the other aspects of life, let's talk sex. People are doing it, might as well do it in a way that it's part of your spiritual practice rather than separate from your spiritual practice. So the tradition definitely does not say thou shalt be celibate, but what it says is whatever you're doing. Are you bathing? Are you cooking? Are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you rising? Are you having sex? Whatever you're doing, do it in a way that is dedicated to your highest spiritual unfoldment. Okay? So that's kind of the bottom line. Then we'll look at some more of the nuances. The Vedic tradition, the Hindu tradition, is also another core premise, is we are not our bodies. And that the ultimate realization, freedom, liberation, is the awareness that I am Brahman, aham brahmasmi. That I'm not this body, I'm not the stories, I'm not the bank account, I'm not any of it, including what it likes. From, pizza to rock music to sex and everything in between. Not that any of those things is actually wrong or sinful or bad or unspiritual in and of itself. But the ultimate goal of life is to realize I am not the senses. I'm not my taste buds. I'm not the neurochemistry of reward, saying, oh, more, more, more. I'm not my urges. And that is seen as the highest awareness, that I'm not the body, I'm soul, I'm spirit, I'm that which is not born, doesn't change, doesn't die. I mean, this is the whole Bhagavad Gita, verse 1 to verse 700. You are not the body. Therefore, the spiritual practices are rooted in giving us the experiential awareness of not being subject to the calls of the body. So, for example, you may have noticed that in India, lots of people fast a lot of the time for different things. Some people fast every 11th day, it's Ekadashi. Some people fast full moons, new moons. Some people fast every Monday. They love Lord Shiva. Every Tuesday, they love Hanumanji. Every Thursday, they love their guru. Whatever it is. Lots of people fast lots of the time. And the reason for this is not just on a physical level it being good for you, but it's actually a very important teaching. Because when you fast, your body screams for food. even if it's only a one-day fast, and so it's not like you're actually on the verge of starvation, nonetheless, your stomach sends out signals. Feed me, I'm hungry. Most of us are used to the moment that we get that signal, or even before we get it, we start eating. Like, I'm hungry, I have to eat. What do you expect? You'll also notice that in India, a lot of people on certain holidays stay awake all night. We have Jagran. It's beautiful all night long for the mother goddess, or on Shivaratri, or on Krishna Janmashtami, or whatever it is. Awake all night. Now, these practices, fasting, staying awake all night, or you'll see sometimes some very, very, hardcore, I guess you would say, spiritual seekers who literally do things like have their arm in the air for years. I mean, literally, you see a lot of this in the Kumbh Mela. All sorts of different renunciants who have chosen all kinds of different austerities, tapas. Arm is raised. Pujya Swamiji, when he was doing his sadhana in the jungle, he had to stand on one leg in Vrikshasana, tree pose, 11 hours a day. Now, that was not his guru's way of, opening up his hips or giving him, firm glutes or something. This was about the mind. Because the glutes give out really quickly. It's all about the mind. And what all of these practices teach us is the body is screaming for something. Food, sleep, rest. But the mind is stronger than the body. And so we're fasting, the body says, feed me, the mind says, no. You're going to be fine, we'll eat tomorrow. Today we're fasting. The body says, oh my God, I need to sleep. And the mind says, yeah, you'll sleep tomorrow. Tonight we're meditating all night at Shivaratri. And what that does is it trains us, even though of course we're going to eat again, we're going to sleep again. These are not bad things, but it trains us on a very deep level. When my senses are screaming for something, I don't have to give in. There is a power in me that is stronger than the call of the senses. And that is a priceless spiritual power for life. To know that you are not a slave of the call of the senses, whatever the senses decide they want. And so abstinence from sex for various periods of time. You'll notice in the ashram, for example, most of the rooms, 2 beds, but they're separated by a nightstand. And in almost all of the rooms, everyone I can think of, the beds are, they're quite small. You're not going to fit 2 people in them. Some people fit 2 little kids in one. But beyond that, it's not going to work. Now, are we anti-sex? Of course not. Are we trying to turn everybody else into celibate monastics like we are? Of course not. And yet, when most people come on spiritual pilgrimage, abstinence is part of their package deal. There's a reason that holy cities like Rishikesh, like Haridwar, cities that are actually designated by the government of India as holy cities. The cities are vegetarian, the cities are alcohol-free. Because when people go on pilgrimage, it's meant to be and understood to be a time of purification of the senses, of dedication of ourself totally and fully to our spiritual practice. So even if I'm not a vegetarian, even if I do drink alcohol, even if I'm in a sexual relationship, on a spiritual pilgrimage, people abstain. It's just part of the package deal, okay? Last part. Because the highest spiritual goal is awareness of the self as the being who is not the body, as soul, as spirit, as source, as divinity, as consciousness. Anything that gets us stuck in the body is seen as something to be transcended. And whether it's that you like sex too much or that you like pizza too much, or anything in between, literally. It's not sex per se. It's something that is going to grab your mind, hijack your mind, occupy your mind, convince you for some period of time that this particular sensual experience is who you are and it is what you need, is seen as taking you in the wrong direction. Because you're supposed to keep remembering, I'm not the body. Which means I'm not my hormones. It means I'm not this urge. I'm not the taste buds. As I said, I'm not any of that. And so this is why, yesterday we had a really deep and incredibly powerful experience with a young family member who is gay and struggling with his family's lack of approval of that. And one of the reasons, I didn't get into too much theory yesterday because it was so deeply personal for him, but one of the reasons that the acceptance of non-traditional, non-heterosexual, monogamous relationships is something that is so challenging for people in India to really accept, is that we're theoretically supposed to only be having sex to procreate the species anyway. Like, it's theoretically supposed to only be that which people do at the phase of their life in Grest Ashram when you are married and you're having a family. And even if you're heterosexual, even if you're married, even if you're monogamous, once you've had your kids and you're done, if you went to a spiritual leader and you said, yeah, we already have kids and, we use birth control, or I've gone through menopause, or I've had a hysterectomy, or whatever it may be, and we love sex. We have sex 5, 7, 8, 10 times a day on basically every surface of the house, and, kitchen table, dining room floor, totally irrelevant. We just can't get enough. That spiritual leader would say to you, this is not right. Now remember, you're monogamous, you're heterosexual, there's nothing untraditional about it. But because it's seen as that which is detracting you from your ultimate goal, you've done the sex thing, you've had your kids, you've done your duty, you've procreated the species, you've gone through that phase of life. Now you're meant to be transcending it. You're meant to be thinking more about soul and spirit. There are these phases of life, and we go through student years and then married householder years where, we're focused on sex and kids and money and career and all of that. And then we move into Vanprastha Ashram, moving more into a detached from that age, forest dweller, moving more into spiritual pursuits. And ultimately then into a total renunciation prior to leaving your body. So this is where you may have seen some of this. This is much more of the philosophy than last night. But it's not that they're anti-sex. It's not that sex is seen as wrong or there can't be right relationship to it. But it's that anything that is seen as just catering to sense pleasure, any of the sense organs, is seen as something to be transcended because it is detracting you. That all being said, at this phase of your life, while you are still presumably sexually active, well, then you have the Kama Sutra that says, well, as long as you're doing it, offer it to God. Do it in a way that is actually advancing your practice. So rather than in a way where you're contracted, if you think about sexual arousal, it contracts our vision. It becomes quite literally a gotta have it, gotta have it, gotta have it, gotta have it. And the vision becomes very, 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 very narrow. Well, instead of that, can you see it as a way of uniting? In ecstasy, no problem with enjoying it, but uniting ultimately with the divine. So it's not body part to body part. It's not just slightly better than scratching an itch, but it's actually a way of using the body as a medium, like yoga is, to get closer to the divine. Shift how you think about it. Shift it from being just lust of the body where there's never enough. I'll never forget, actually, funny story. Probably 20, 25 years ago when Viagra was first invented or first became popular, I was sitting at an event with Pujya Swamiji, who has been a lifelong celibate, to whom and with whom I'd never heard anyone ever talk about sex on any level. And we were sitting in an event, and he was talking about desire in general and how there's no end to desires, and we just keep fulfilling them, and they keep creating more, and whatever it is, we get it, and we want more, and we get it, and we want more. And he pauses, and he says, look at it. He says, 80-year-old men having to take a pill because it's never enough. And of course, we all turned like different shades of purple because, there he is sitting on stage talking about sex. But it was a really interesting point. Not that there's anything morally or ethically or spiritually wrong with having sex at an advanced age. And yet, the awareness that it's never enough. And at what point do you stop and say, okay, I get it. This thing is not going to fill me. Every time I have it, I just want more. Okay, let me shift to the yearning for something that's actually going to fill me on a deeper and more lasting level. And so that's the pathway to walk. So I hope that clarifies the question on as many different scriptural levels as I can think of. Yeah, good. Are there any other questions?
There's just one comment. Can please everyone turn off their phones and turn them off completely? Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions? Yes, of course, please.
Hi. Thank you. My name is Sarji, Maybe it's a little bit silly what I want to ask.
No such thing.
Thank you. Sometimes I feel I'm giving with good intention and from the heart, but if afterwards I don't receive like gratitude or recognition, I feel like uncomfortable with myself and also like still waiting. And if it's not coming, I get a little bit angry. So I understand like on the mind level what is giving without attachment, but I don't know how to embody it.
Yeah,
So
beautiful.
I would like to hear you. Thank you.
So it's perfectly natural. Of course we want appreciation. We do something for someone, of course we want to be appreciated, right? I mean, it's what parents teach their kids at the youngest age. Somebody gives the kid a lollipop and the mother says, "What do you say?" Right? And the kid goes, "Thank you." It's part of our socialization. You are supposed to say thank you. And when you don't hear a thank you, people notice it. My grandmother used to be so particular about who sent thank you notes and who didn't. I mean, this is going back to an age where people actually wrote notes and put them in envelopes and put stamps on them and put them in a mailbox to go to somebody. Thank you so much for my birthday present. Thank you so much for this present. And that was absolutely expected. And I remember listening to her when I was young, mention to my mom, mention to my dad about how so-and-so was so poorly raised because he or she had not sent a thank you note for the gift my grandmother had sent. So it's natural. We're living in a society where to say thank you, to be appreciative, is considered polite, it's expected. So when you don't get it, we notice it. The question for you is, can I go deeper than just being a cog in the wheel? Like, even long before I became a spiritual person, and I certainly learned at a very young age, make sure you always send thank you notes. I did notice, even young, the distress that my grandmother felt. And I remember thinking, like, is this how it feels when you give somebody something? Like, shouldn't there be a joy of giving? Even if you don't get a thank you note? I mean, she was always so upset at it that it always made me feel like, A, never forget to send thank you notes, but B, is this really how I want to be? And so I was committed that I was never going to pay attention to who said thank you, who did that, but just, it seemed like such a weird obsession that she had. And so the question that we all have to ask ourselves is, do I want to be a cog in the wheel? Like, okay, yes, people absolutely should appreciate you. And is that worth me losing my inner peace? Like, do I need it? And it's a very conscious decision to say, I'm going to unhook my inner well-being from other people's manners. Something that I wish I had had the vocabulary to offer to my grandmother. Because so frequently the person she was angry at was, 13. You think, really, Grandma? Like, okay, they forgot. And then she was angry at their parents who should have made sure that the kid sent the thank you note. Think, if you could unhook your inner experience from other people's manners, or from other people's sense of entitlement, or from other people's lack of awareness that what you did was so nice for them. And it's not easy. But it's a really important step in taking back the reins of our own emotional state. Otherwise, we become just puppets in other people's hands. It's the same thing like, oh, you were nice to me, so I'm happy. You were mean to me, I'm not happy. It's like, oh, you appreciated me, I'm happy. You didn't, I'm not happy. We sell ourselves so cheaply. Your peace, your joy is precious and priceless. Guard it like anything. Don't let any random, rude, senseless person have the right to decide how you feel. Like, I'm going to be happy, whether you acknowledge what I gave you or not. Because I'm not going to give you that authority. I'm not going to give you that power. I've already given you a gift. I'm not going to give you my emotional state also. And just really be very conscious about it. Don't think about it as a higher spiritual state that I shouldn't be attached. Think about it really pragmatic. Taking back the reins of my inner emotional state. I'm in charge, not you. You're nice to me, great. You're not nice to me, fine. You appreciate me, great. You don't appreciate me, fine. I'm going to be happy anyway. I am going to be peaceful anyway, regardless. I am going to know that what I gave you is beautiful and wonderful and valuable because there is some of me in it. And I value what I gave you. But I value me, the giver, even more. And otherwise, we value what we gave more than we value the giver. Right? If the gift gets appreciation, then the giver is okay. But if the gift doesn't get appreciation, then as the giver, we feel less than. What you've given is just a piece of yourself, a reflection of you. But you are much more than that. So just make a commitment that you and you only are in charge of your inner emotional well-being. If other people's parents did not teach them manners, fine. Hopefully my grandmother will meet them in a next lifetime and she can explain things to them. But for now, regain and retain your inner peace. Because that's not a gift you want to be handing over to somebody else. Okay? Good. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evenings. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world online. We will start tomorrow with your question. आपका कल से आपके साथ शुरू करेंगे. हाँ, कल से आपके साथ शुरू करेंगे. We'll start tomorrow with you. You'll be first. And I look so forward to seeing all of you again tomorrow. And so much love to you all.
Thank you, Pujya Sadhviji.